What if I told you that one political crisis triggered a war so devastating it nearly erased entire regions from the map of Europe? Not a world war, not a modern conflict, but a 30-year nightmare that began in 1618. Entire cities were emptied, famine spread, economies collapsed, and by the time it ended, millions were gone. This is the story of the war that nearly destroyed Europe. The conflict began inside the Holy Roman Empire, a patchwork of states across Central Europe. Religion was the fault line. Protestant and Catholic rulers distrusted one another deeply. Political authority and religious loyalty were inseparable.
How dare you defy the Emperor's
In
decree?
1618, tensions exploded in Bohemia. Protestant nobles feared their religious freedoms were being stripped away by the Catholic emperor. Anger turned into defiance, and defiance turned into open rebellion. What began as a regional crisis quickly pulled in powerful neighbors. The emperor mobilized imperial forces. Protestant states formed defensive alliances. Soon, the conflict outgrew Bohemia. It became a struggle not just over faith, but over power. Denmark intervened, then Sweden, and eventually France, even though France was Catholic.
What does it mean?
By then, religion was no longer the only reason. Europe had entered a contest for dominance. What followed was not a single continuous battle. It was a rolling catastrophe. Armies marched back and forth across the same territories for decades. Fields were trampled, harvests destroyed, trade routes collapsed. Mercenary forces, soldiers fighting for pay rather than loyalty, roamed the countryside. Entire villages were abandoned as civilians fled approaching armies. In parts of what is now Germany, population levels fell dramatically. Some regions lost nearly a third of their people, not only from fighting, but from famine and disease that followed in war's shadow. The conflict transformed from a religious war into a geopolitical struggle. Sweden sought influence in the Baltic. France sought to weaken the Habsburg dynasty. Spain defended its imperial interests. The Holy Roman Empire became the battlefield of Europe. And the war seemed endless. Year after year, season after season. Peace negotiations failed. Generations grew up knowing nothing but instability. Economies fractured, social order strained. The map of Europe was being reshaped, not by treaties, but by exhaustion. After 3 decades of devastation, something remarkable happened. Diplomats gathered, not for a temporary truce, but for a lasting settlement. In 1648, representatives from across Europe signed what became known as the Peace of Westphalia. For the first time, the idea of sovereign states, independent political entities with defined borders, was formally recognized. The authority of the Holy Roman Emperor weakened. Regional rulers gained greater control. Religion would no longer be dictated solely from above. The balance of power shifted. France emerged stronger. Sweden gained influence, and Europe began moving toward the modern state system we recognize today. The war that started as a religious dispute ended by redefining international politics. 30 years, millions affected, a continent transformed. History is often remembered for its battles, but sometimes its greatest impact comes from what those battles leave behind. The 30 Years' War did not just scar Europe, it helped create the modern world. And it all began with a crisis that few could have imagined would grow so large. If you want more real stories history never prepared you for, subscribe to History Unscripted, because the past is far stranger than fiction.